The Giant Pink Teddy Bear by Nadia. Once upon a time, there was a pink teddy bear the size of the moon. The fluffy bear was stuffed and sat upright with its arms and legs outstretched, as if offering the tightest, coziest embrace in its belly. But it wasn't an ordinary soft belly. Inside its tummy was a globe. Inside the globe was a small amusement park. The park was mostly games with a few rides like a merry-go-round, Ferris wheel, and a dragon swing. Occasionally, there was a concert for favoring. The park boasted of a single roller coaster and went upside down around the entire circumference of the globe. It went underground to protect the patrons and preserve the circle. It also boarded underground. Each train car also had a globe covering that was sometimes covered in red goo. Horror fans would say it was blood. However, the real draw of the park was the cotton candy. Every few hours, small chunks of strawberry-flavored cotton candy poured from above. The patrons would hold their heads back and open their mouths, letting the sweet fluff dissolve on their tongues. Others caught it in cups, on plates, or right into their hands. It looked like a globe full of pink snow. Pink winter, it was called. All who tasted the sugary treat agreed that it was the best cotton candy they'd ever had. One thing they all noted was that it was creamy compared to other cotton candy. What was it that made it so delicious? That was the question Alana Tierney wanted answered. Alana was a girl, just a regular girl with afro puffs and pink ball hair ties, who one day turned to her big sister and asked, "Where does the cotton candy come from?" "I don't know," the teen asked. "Space, who cares? Just eat it." Alana cared. She cared very much. She looked up as the candy fell down and thought, "How do I get up there?" She looked around. There were no ladders. Must have been somewhere in the back. Or maybe they used one of those electric ladders on wheels. She'd find out. Her curiosity guiding her more than her sense, she wandered away from her sister, who was occupied with throwing baseballs at bottles. She found a worker. He didn't know and didn't seem to care. Up the way was another worker loading the garbage onto the back of a pickup truck. The driver drove slowly through the crowd. Alana followed him, eating cotton candy out of a cone. Maybe he'd only lead her to where the garbage was piled. But she'd probably find more than that on the way. She didn't know what she'd find by following the stranger. But what was the worst that could happen? She hid when he stopped to empty the trash into the dumpster. When the back of the truck was emptied, he climbed back into the driver's seat and slowly drove off. Alana used the opportunity to hop onto the truck bed. He left it open. She waved at people as she passed by, everyone assuming she was supposed to be there. They passed a set of tubes that seemed to send water upwards into the bear. As they went on, she noticed how pink the back walls were. Well, that made sense. The teddy bear was pink. Of course, the walls would also be pink. But what caught her attention was the massive dark spot they passed. It was out of place given how uniform the rest of the walls were. She was so distracted that she didn't know the driver had stopped until he was shooing her away. She apologized for the intrusion and ran off towards the black spot. "Hey kid," the man yelled. Your family is back that way. He pointed in the direction opposite of where she was going. Yes, thank you, she said, turning and walking towards the crowd. But she didn't go back. Once he wasn't looking, she hid and waited for him to drive off. When the coast was clear, she darted over to the dark spot in the wall. It was a tunnel, dark and humid. She wanted to take a step inside, but was nervous. Her heart thumped in her ears. It was loud. She could feel it in her chest like the boom of a bass. Thump-thump, pause. Thump-thump, pause. A draft blasted her with hot, sickly, sweet-smelling air. Where was it coming from? Was this an exit? There was no sign saying it was. There should be another exit. It always bothered her that there seemed to only be one entry or exit. If there was an emergency, people far away from the exit could be hurt. Alana had a lot of questions and rational answers for them all. Maybe the exit was through this doorway. Maybe it was hot because the bear was a machine. Maybe it was lighter inside than it looked on the outside. Ultimately, what she knew was that this felt weird, and she shouldn't be here. Before she could leave, a reverse draft sucked her in. She stumbled inside, falling on the slippery, soft floor, screaming as she was dragged away from the entrance. The thumping was deafening and rattled her whole body. She tried to stand. A long, hot draft knocked her down and pushed her back towards the entrance. She rolled out of the doorway and onto the plain, hard floor. Her shoes, hands, and arms were slick, coated in whatever she fell in. Still, she pushed herself to her feet just before another reverse draft dragged her back. This wasn't an exit. This went inside the bear. She turned and ran, sprinting past workers who yelled at her. She didn't stop. She couldn't. She could barely hear them from the sound of her heart thumping in her ears. She ran past her sister, out the exit, and didn't stop until she got home. The next day, Alana and her sister went back to the giant teddy bear, but this time they had flashlights and soccer cleats. Jane made Alana a deal. If Alana told Jane the truth about where she'd gone, Jane wouldn't tell their parents that she'd wandered off alone. Alana told her everything. And Jane still wanted to tell because she must have been lying. Why she'd even fabricate such a wild tale was beyond Jane's understanding. The passion and fear in her eyes as she told the story made Jane hold off on telling. But she wanted to see this tunnel for herself. She wanted to see this slippery syrup floor. She wanted to see everything. It wasn't a long walk from the entry to the back, but it got darker as they walked closer to the wall. "Oh my God, that's loud," Jane said of the thumps. "It sounds like a giant heartbeat," Alana said. "I thought it was just me, but it's coming from the tunnel." Jane stood before the loud, hot, musty tunnel. "It sounds like it's breathing," she said. They flashed their light down the tunnel. Both agreed it didn't look like anywhere anyone would want to be. Still, Alana stepped forward. They took a few more steps forward until she was in the tunnel with her sister following closely. The inside was humid, sticky, and reeked of strawberry, a scent that, in small doses, was fine, but here was awful and overwhelming. "I think I got diabetes from being in here," Jane joked. "It's like a syrup mine," Alana replied. They continued on. one point, the ground trembled as it did when the cotton candy fell. But now, they were on the inside. They could hear noises that were normally overshadowed by the sounds of games, rides, and laughter. It was horrifying. A muffled scream as if someone was being tortured cut through the scent and darkness. Jane shook. We shouldn't be here. We should turn back. Before Alana could agree, there were more screams. Someone needs our help. What do we do? Alana would have done whatever her big sister said. She wanted to help, but she was terrified too. And what help could a small 12-year-old girl be? Jane's features steeled and jaw tightened. We help them, then we get the hell out of here. Helping someone, then getting out was a good plan that propelled Alana forward. Hey, slow down, Jane yelled. Alana didn't realize how far away she'd gotten from Jane. They crossed a wide but slippery bridge and reached a ladder against the back wall. It was tall, with breaks every few steps. It swayed and shifted. Sometimes it dipped so low that the girls thought they would fall. They screamed and yelled and held on until their brown knuckles turned white. Worst ladder ever. 0 stars. When they finally reached the top, they were out of breath and barely remembered why they were here. Jane, being bigger and stronger, recovered first and walked off from Alana, who was laid out on the floor catching her breath. Whoa, Jane gasped. Allie, you gotta come see this. Alana popped up, eager to see what her sister had discovered. Her reaction was the same as her sister's. She held her hands out and touched the glass. They had reached the top of the globe. They looked down at the crowd of people meandering along, enjoying their day. The line for the roller coaster was unreasonably long, given that most people had ridden it more than once. Alana was excited to see what people looked like from above. She had run off and seen what others didn't know. She was about to learn a whole lot more. Allie, you need to see this. Alana had been so enthralled with the view that she didn't notice her sister had walked off. Jane was nowhere to be seen. Alana swallowed to stay calm. Jane was here somewhere. She had to. Allie! Oh my God, Jane! Yelled a startled Alana. Well, hurry up! She chuckled and darted behind a wall that Alana hadn't noticed. It was loud on the other side. When Alana saw the source of the noise, of the thumping, she froze with her mouth open. What is that? It was a heart. It was very obviously a heart. But a teddy bear with a heart was too much for the young tyranny to process. Is it real? She asked, near tears at what it would mean if the heart was real. Jane, is it real? Nah. How could it be? It's just a giant teddy bear. How could it be real? Jane's words contained a logic and belief not held in her tone. She continued to explain animatronics and effects, and it all made sense. But Alana couldn't ignore the heat, the squishiness, the wetness, the noise. None of it felt right. The massive, fake heart drew Alana's attention. She was fixated on it, to the point of not realizing she'd moved. Before she knew it, she was on her toes, reaching up to the giant, dripping organ. As soon as she touched it, the bear shook, knocking and rolling the girls all over the place. The muffled scream they'd heard before was louder than ever. Alana tried to cover her ears, but needed her hands to protect the rest of her body. It's a good thing the surface was soft, or she would have suffered serious injury. Once they were able to stand, Jane yelled, "What did you do? I only touched it! Why? Keep your hands to yourself!" A loud whirring noise and heat interrupted the girls. They peeked around the wall. A large metal apparatus hung from the ceiling. It spun and threw off heat while pulling into it parts of the walls. The top of the globe opened up. There was more screaming and shaking as the floor stretched apart to accommodate the globe's new size. After a few minutes, cotton candy flew from the apparatus to the patrons below. The first chance they got, the girls ran from the teddy bear in the amusement park and never returned. As time went on, the bear's color started to change, from bright, vivid pink to dull, dusty, and dirty. The fur fell off in chunks, exposing skin that was gray, green, and wrinkled. People stopped going because of a stench caused by a green liquid oozing out around parts of the globe. The park was abandoned. For several seasons, the bear's decay was on display until there was nothing left but a skeleton. Then that collapsed too. The end.